It's Agent Greg Zentner with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Today is Thursday, September 6th, 2018. At approximately 9:46 a.m. is an interview with Lauren Arnold in reference to her friendship with Shanann Watts. So let me make sure I got your name spelled right. Is it Lauren?
Mm-hmm.
Arnold?
Yep.
Do you have a middle name?
My maiden name's Oakley. That's my middle name now.
Okay. And can I get your address again?
Yep, it's.
Oops. 8001.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what's your date of birth?
9/16/85.
You had a birthday coming up here.
Yeah.
Happy early birthday.
Well, thank you.
Okay. How long have you known Shanann?
Since 99.
Okay.
So,
How did you guys meet?
We met in high school. We grew up in the same town. Well, I guess we didn't grow up in the same town, but we're from the same town.
Oh, where's that from?
Pinehurst, North Carolina.
Okay.
I think they moved there somewhere around our freshman year.
Okay.
So I met her.
So it would have been, that was 99 when you met her?
Mm-hmm.
So when they moved there?
I think so. I don't know exactly when they moved to North Carolina, but I know I met her our freshman year, which was in 99.
Okay. All right. And were you guys fast friends?
Yeah, I mean, we stayed really good friends all throughout high school, so for the whole 4 years. And then after we left, we lost contact for a year or so. And then we met up again when she lived in Charlotte. And we stayed in close contact ever since then.
Okay.
And then we both happened to move out here, so.
Just coincidentally?
They moved out here first.
Okay. When you say they, who are you referring to?
Her and Chris.
Okay.
They moved out here, I think it was around 5-ish years ago. And then my ex-husband and I moved out here a year afterwards. He's in the military, so we got stationed out here conveniently.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, so obviously you met Chris.
Yes.
So, tell me about the first time you met Chris. Do you remember?
Yes, my ex-husband and I went over there for dinner. It was like right when we moved here, so it was 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
So
we're talking late 2013. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of when I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it was either 2013, 2014.
Okay.
No, 2014.
2014. Okay.
Yeah, we moved here in August of 2014, so
Okay.
we went over there within like a month or so of us moving here.
Okay. So is that their house in Frederick?
Yes.
Okay. For dinner, you said?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And anything, that was the first time you met Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you go to their wedding?
No.
Okay.
No, I think I was in California at that time, so I couldn't go.
Okay. All right. So what was your first impression of Chris?
He was really nice. He was quiet, but he got along with my ex-husband really well. You know, sometimes husbands are weird with other husbands,
Yeah, right.
but they seemed to get along pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed attentive and nice.
Okay. Nothing unusual, nothing struck you as out of the ordinary, anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right. And see, did they have Bella at that point? Was it Bella?
Yeah, it was Bella.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a baby.
Just brand new then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you've been in pretty constant contact with Shanann.
Yes.
Before that, so pretty much from early 2000s to the time that they moved out here.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to her, like, we did wedding planning over the phone. I mean, I had been talking to her pretty much the whole time.
Okay. Do you guys have much interaction with them over the next few years?
Within the last, like,
Yeah, within the
years?
last, ever since this first meeting with Chris.
Oh yeah, I saw her more than him, but we pretty frequently would go over there for dinner, or they would have gatherings and stuff all the time. So, I mean, I was over there pretty frequently.
Okay. If you had to estimate, how many times have you been to their house?
I would say at least once a month for the last 4 years.
Okay, so a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I talked to her pretty frequently. I mean, multiple times a week.
Okay.
So
would you consider you guys pretty good friends?
yeah.
Did she ever talk to you about Thrive or anything like that?
Yeah, that was definitely her business and her motivation for everything. I did it for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't really my thing, but
I guess I'm not real familiar with that. Can you kind of
yeah,
explain it to me?
it's like a nutrition lifestyle. So you have these like shakes that you drink every day, and these tablets that you take, and then these patches that you wear. And the patches are supposed to be full of vitamins, and I don't know, it was expensive to me, so I didn't stick with it. But she seemed to, I mean, I could see where it was beneficial with her, because you know she has lupus, so she was always on like her medications, and she was sick for a while, but this seemed to kind of help her, you know, mentally and physically.
Did you see a difference in her?
Oh yeah, she had a lot more energy, and she wasn't as like sick and down, I guess you could say.
Okay. All right. Was that more of a function of a cleaner lifestyle, or do you think it was attributed to the Thrive product?
I think it was both. It's kind of like when you work out, you want to eat better.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of went hand in hand.
Okay. All right. And do you know was Chris using that?
Yes.
Okay. She had him on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she had everybody on it.
It's kind of the impression I'm getting.
Yeah.
So if you were in contact with her, you were part of it.
I mean, I gave it a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it. I don't know. I'm busy, and
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't devote myself to it. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's one of the things you gotta really commit to.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. During any of the times you were over at their house or had interactions with them, did you ever notice any tensions between them? Did they act weird towards each other? Anything like that? Did you ever notice?
No. No. They were kind of that like strive to be couple. They seem to be very equal in the way they do things. Like she would cook dinner, he would clean up. She would feed the kids, he would help get them ready for bed. I mean, it just seemed to be a very working relationship. They communicated really well with each other, as far as I could see. They were affectionate with each other. So.
Okay. Did you ever see any change in the level of affection?
Kind of, yes. I don't know exactly what month is this? September. It's somewhere in the last 6-ish months. He was a little more standoffish.
Okay.
So whenever I would go over there, usually, you know, he would be a little more interactive with us, I guess. And then the last, I guess, like 6 months or so, he would kind of just like stay to himself. Like he would come in from work and go upstairs and just kind of like distance himself.
Okay. And that was definitely different than what you were used to.
Yeah, because normally he was always around, you know, because we were always hanging out in the kitchen or in the living room with the kids or something like that. And he was always there interacting with all of us. But I would say at least in the last 6 months or so, he was kind of more isolated to himself.
Okay. So let's say, if this hadn't happened, would that have caught your attention?
I mean, it did catch my attention, but I've been married before, so, I mean, it could have been, I mean, and I knew that they were having some issues, but nothing that would warrant any, a worry or anything.
Okay. Can you define issues for me?
His mom was kind of a problem. They were
His
arguing.
mom was?
Yes, they were arguing a lot about his mom.
What was that about, do you know?
It's kind of like the disrespect she had towards Shanann.
Okay.
And then her behavior towards Cece and her allergies and the way Shanann would parent, and she essentially was one of those, like, I feel like she's making stuff up kind of people, and so she was trying to prove Shanann wrong. And so there's just a lot of conflict between, obviously because it's Chris's mom and then it's Shanann's mother-in-law, but there's kind of a disconnect there.
Do you remember any specific incident you could give me where this disrespect would come into play?
It's kind of, I mean, she's talked about it for the last few years. I mean,
Shanann has.
Yeah. His mom didn't go to the wedding, which was kind of an issue for Shanann, and then there was just always a resistance with the two of them. She didn't like talking to her on the phone because she felt like she was always being condescending towards her, and there's just a lot of conflict there.
Okay. So it sounds like that probably started early on in their relationship.
Right.
She doesn't show up for their wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty heavy duty there.
Yeah.
Okay. Did Shanann ever say if that really bothered her?
I mean, it bothered her, but I think she kind of knew how she was going into the relationship. So I think she thought it was going to get better, but I don't really think it ever did.
Any other issues that you're aware of between Chris and Shanann?
The finances were obviously an issue. I think she downplayed them a little bit, but it wasn't, I knew they had filed for bankruptcy a couple years ago, but she kind of presented it like, oh, well, it's gonna help us, in the long run, and it was, she worked really hard. So at one time, she did have 2 or 3 jobs at a time. So she was doing what she could to help provide for her family. But she never seemed like stressed out about the finances. She just mentioned that, they got behind on things and, they argued about it sometimes.
Okay. Was Chris a spender? Was Shanann a spender? Did they both just let it loose? Or do you know how the dynamics of that?
I'm not really sure about his spending. Hers seemed to be, it wasn't anything excessive. I know that once they had kids, she obviously wouldn't shop for herself the way she used to. They had really nice things. They pretty much had everything that you could imagine you would need in a household. It kind of seemed equal on things. She would buy furniture and he would buy like a new lawnmower or something. So, it seemed pretty equal.
Okay. All right. But that was a source of tension at some point there, like you mentioned that they had arguments about money.
Yeah, I'm not really sure the exact nature of the financial issues. I just know I had mentioned my own, and she was like, yeah, no, I understand, we're filing for bankruptcy, so it was kind of she didn't go into too much detail about it, but she did mention that there were some issues going on.
Anything else that you can think of that would be classified as issues, relationship issues?
Not really. I know their communication started getting a little bit, I guess, lackluster in the last few months, because she was always in contact with him. So whenever she went anywhere, he always knew, I guess, like where she was, and they were on the phone a lot, especially if she was out of town or something. But he had cut conversations short a couple times. I think it just kind of goes back to like him being distant of sorts.
So did she travel much with the Thrive business?
Yeah, they traveled a lot.
Okay.
They had a lot of trips, and I say they because most of the time he went with her.
Okay.
So it was kind of rare that she would go somewhere without him. Unless it was, I guess, like the Scottsdale trip where it was just like a real quick weekend thing, but most of the time whenever she went anywhere traveling wise, he went with her. Because it was kind of, they were in the business together.
Okay. And were all those trips for business? Any of those pleasure?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I guess with Thrive, you earn the trips, so they are pleasure trips, but I'm assuming there's conferences and stuff that go along with it, so I think they're kind of both.
Okay. And my understanding is that she actually had a car that was being paid for through the Thrive. Is it Lavelle or Thrive?
It's the same thing.
Same thing? Okay.
Lavelle owns Thrive.
Okay.
Thrive is like the nutrition steps thing. It's the brand, I guess, and then the company is called Lavelle.
Okay.
So.
All right. I wasn't sure how that worked.
Yeah, it was one of the levels that she had gotten to. Like you get to this bonus of sorts, and then they send you, I guess, like the amount of money of a car payment or something, and then that's how you pay for your car.
Yeah. Okay. I assume that she's got a lot of people like working for her, I guess would be the way to put it.
Yeah. It's like I don't want to say a pyramid scheme because that's not a nice word, but it's.
So I've heard it called
market.
Compared to like Mary Kay.
Yes.
Okay.
Like you start and then you get people underneath you and they get people underneath them and then it all kind of trickles back to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the short conversations within the last 6 months or so. Did Shanann ever talk to you about those? Or about the fact that the conversations were getting short?
It's something I've noticed, or something I noticed. It would mainly come up, she was never really like, hey, I'm having an issue. It was, me talking about, one of my situations, and then she would kind of come in and be like, yeah, we're going through that too. So, I noticed that, he would call or she would call him and he wouldn't answer, or he would be real quick on the phone. And you can just tell she was getting frustrated. Like she would call and ask a question like about dinner or something, and then a few seconds later she'd be off the phone, and you can see that it was just one of those like, what the hell kind of things. And then like he would come home and like I said, he would come in, say hi to the kids, say hi real quick, and then like go upstairs. Whereas before he would come in, hang out for a little while, talk to her, go upstairs and like clean up and then come back down. But that all kind of, the behavior kind of changed a little bit.
Started changing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in the 6-month time frame.
Yeah.
Alright. Where did my last page go? Did you ever go with her on any of these business trips?
No.
When was the last time you actually saw Shanann in person?
About a week before they went to North Carolina.
Okay, so it would have been, what, end of June?
Yes.
Does that sound right?
I think so. I can't remember. I just know she was trying to get her packing list and everything ready for the trip.
Okay.
So I know it was right before then.
Where did you see her?
At her house.
Okay. And how did she seem at that point?
She was good. I brought my kids over there to play with her kids. It was just kind of something we did. She was, like I said, she was getting all of their stuff ready. She was asking me when I was coming back to Thrive again. She was asking about my parents. She was asking about the baby. Because she said she told me she was going to be finding out what she was having while she was gone. And I was like, well, I'm having a boy, so you have to have a boy.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of just talked about like pregnancy stuff, and she seems normal.
Okay, so she knew at that point that she was pregnant.
Yes.
How far along was she? Did she know?
I don't remember. I have no idea.
Okay. All right. How did she seem about that?
She was good. She was excited. She was happy like she was with the first two. So.
Okay. Did she ever say anything about how Chris felt about it? Anything like that?
Yeah, well, when she called and told me that, because when I got pregnant, I joked around and I was like, well, it's time for you to have one. And she was like, yeah, I know, that's what Chris keeps saying. So I know they had discussed having another baby. Cece she was a handful, so Shanann wasn't sure. And then, once I got pregnant and I was like, it's time for you to have a third one, she was like, I know, we're talking about it. And then she calls me all excited and tells me she's pregnant. And so, I was excited.
All right.
She seemed pretty excited too.
Okay. All right. But Chris was actually talking about having
Yes.
a third child.
Yes, because he wanted a boy. So that was his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he even joked around. He was like, if we keep having girls, then we'll just keep going until we have a boy.
And Why was Cece such a handful? She just energetic kid or what?
Yeah, I think because Bella she was really calm, really quiet, and Cece was not by any means. She's a hyper kid. My middle child, well, I guess my now middle child, she's the same way. They say your first ones are supposed to be easier, but yeah, she was like fast and just all over the place.
Yeah, that's middle kids tend to be that way.
Yeah, it's like they're predestined and they just know.
Right. It's interesting. Okay, so when she goes to North Carolina, do you have contact with her while she's there?
Yeah, we're from the same hometown, so I kind of kept in touch to like, who have you seen, where have you gone, how's your family, and go say hi to my mom type stuff.
Okay. Is this all text messages, phone calls, Facebook Messenger?
All three, yeah.
Okay.
We kind of communicate in all realms.
Okay. All right. And did she say anything to you about how things are going in North Carolina? I assume you knew that Chris didn't go with her initially.
Yeah, I knew he was coming.
Okay. Was there, did she ever talk about a reasoning?
I think he had to work.
Okay.
Because they had planned this trip for a while, and because Cece's birthday party and everything was kind of falling in that time, so she wanted to have enough time to spend with family and see everybody and, plan a party and everything. So I knew Chris was coming, but I knew he wasn't going to be there the whole time.
Okay. And that's just because he had to work.
Right. Yeah, there's no way he could have taken 6 weeks off.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Did she ever talk about any issues that had occurred in North Carolina while she was there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But like with her and Chris, or just like in general?
Let's start with her and Chris. Any issues
No.
that she would already mentioned or anything like that?
No.
Okay. She ever say anything, hey, the conversations are still short, or or not talking or anything like that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. What about in general?
I know she had a couple of issues with her mother-in-law. There was, and it revolved around Cece and her allergies. Her mother-in-law she had another grandchild over there, and like Shanann had asked her, make sure that you don't have this list of things. You can't have this in the house, because she just recently found out how severe this allergy was, and she had found out that the other grandchild had this ice cream that had nuts in it, and her mother-in-law basically told her, well, you can't give her everything she wants. She's not the only kid here, and she's like, it's not a favoritism thing, it's a health and safety thing, and it just kind of escalated from there. I know she had mentioned something about someone trying to give Cece, a peanut to see if the allergy was real or not. I don't know if they actually gave it to her or what happened, but it was this huge ordeal. And so she felt that it would be better if the kids didn't go over to see his mom without being supervised, because she clearly can't be trusted with the safety of Cece and her allergies. So I know that was kind of the only thing that she had talked to me about, because she was pretty stressed out about it, naturally.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. So that caused quite a bit of consternation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else in general that you remember?
Mm-mm. No.
What about when Chris actually went to North Carolina? And I think that was about the first part of August.
Yeah, I didn't really talk to her a whole lot. Actually, I don't even think I talked to her at all that week.
Okay. Is there a reason for that, or just cause?
Yeah, I went into preterm labor.
Oh.
So I was in the hospital for about a week or so. She reached out and texted me just to make sure I was okay. But other than that, like, we didn't really have in-depth conversations. And then it was my daughter's birthday and my mom was here. So it was just kind of, we didn't really talk a whole lot in that time period.
Okay.
I actually didn't talk to her until the Saturday before she went missing.
Okay. And was that a phone call when you talked to her?
Yes.
Okay. Let me make a note of that. We'll come back to her. Okay. Did you see any of her Facebook posts during that first week of August while she was in North Carolina with Chris?
Yeah.
Anything unusual strike you about those? Different?
No, I saw they were at the beach, and I saw, that's really all I remember, is actually them being at the beach. Because I didn't know when he got there. But then, like, I had seen the pictures and stuff, and I saw that he was there, and I was like, oh, good, Chris got there. And then that was kind of it.
Okay. Alright. And I think that she came back with the kids on the 7th. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Okay. And
Because then she left, like, a few days later.
okay. Is that when she went to Arizona for the, I guess, Thrive conference?
Yeah.
Okay. That was just a weekend thing, right?
Yep. I believe she left, like, that Friday and then came back
Okay.
Sunday night, Monday morning.
Okay. Do you know who she went to Arizona with?
The same group of people that I think she normally goes with. I know Nicole was there. I know there's a couple of other girls that were there too. I know Amanda was there, and I'm pretty sure Cassandra was there too.
Nicole, do you know Nicole?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Nicole Atkinson now?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's Amanda?
Amanda Thayer.
Okay. And who's Cassandra?
Cassandra Rosenberg, she, I haven't met her yet. I've talked to her a bunch, but she's one of Shanann's friends from, I don't know where they met actually, but she's in the Thrive business too, so.
Okay.
She just moved here recently.
Oh, she did? Okay.
A few days ago.
Oh, like literally recently?
Yeah, like right before, it was last week, actually.
Okay. Alright. So you last spoke to her on Saturday, August 11th, does that sound right?
12:30, yes.
Okay. Do you remember about what time that was?
No.
Okay.
No, it was kind of a quick conversation. I was asked her when she was coming back, and she told me, she was like, I'll be back late Sunday night, Monday morning. We were supposed to get together that week because she had her gender reveal party coming up, so I was going to help finish off that. We were going to get the girls together for one more play date before everybody went back to school full swing. And then that's kind of it. It was kind of a quick conversation because I was like, I just wanted to make sure she was going to be back before I started making all these plans.
Okay.
And then I messaged her Sunday.
On Facebook message?
Yeah. and I asked her, because I had forgotten what she said, and I asked her again when she was going to be back, and she didn't respond.
That was on Sunday.
Yep. And then,
She did not respond.
no,
Is that unusual for her to not respond?
yes. But it was also like 2 in the afternoon, and I knew she was traveling, so
Okay.
it wasn't really that big a deal. Monday, I text her.
Okay, let me stick with Sunday here real quick. So
Okay.
Sunday you messaged her,
Mm-hmm.
but that was the only contact you had or tried to have with her. Is that?
Yeah, because I knew she was traveling. I didn't know what time or anything.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna give her time to get home, and then I'll bother her about when to see her.
Okay. Okay, so Sunday you have this, you try to send her a text, message, whatever. You get no response. Monday, do you try to contact her Monday, or did she contact you or anything like that?
No, I knew she had a doctor's appointment in the morning.
Okay,
Usually I talk to her afterwards. So I text her around like 11:30, 12, and I was like, how did everything go? Like, when do you want to meet this week? And I didn't get a response. And then somewhere around, it wasn't long after that, I got on Facebook and I saw that her brother had said something about that she was missing.
remember about what time that was?
I can find out.
Sure. Mhm. So the fact that she didn't respond to your initial text about her doctor appointment, was that unusual?
Yes.
Is she pretty good about returning texts?
Yes. She literally has her phone on her hip or in her hand at all times.
Okay.
Okay, I talked to her brother at well, my phone doesn't like to keep track of anything. Hold on. It was around 2 o'clock.
Okay. Is that when you saw it on Facebook?
No,
Or is that when you talked to?
I saw it on Facebook, so I talked to him about an hour after I saw it, because he was like, hold on, I'll call you.
Okay.
And then I text him my phone number, because he called me on Facebook Messenger, because he didn't have my number. And then I text him my number at 2. So I had already known.
So about 1-ish.
I'd say like 1:30,
1:30,
2 o'clock,
okay.
yeah.
And his name is Frank.
Frankie.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What did you see on Facebook?
I had to read it again, because he said something like, you know, my sister's missing, and there's a picture, and she just left North Carolina, so I thought at first maybe it was one of those like she hadn't talked to him or something, so he was like, oh, my sister's missing because she won't return my calls kind of thing. I went back and read it, and it was legitimately nobody can find her. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So then I sent him a message, I think, on Facebook, and then he called me freaking out. And I was like, well, let me go by there and see what's going on. Because I'm the only person here from North Carolina, so I was kind of, well, besides Chris, but, I'm kind of their only, like, go-to at this point. So I was like, let me go out there and I'll let you know what I can find out. But I had to pick my kids up from school, and I didn't end up going out there until almost 5.
Okay. Did you try to text Chris at all?
No, I didn't have his number.
Okay.
Otherwise I would have.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I just went out there.
Okay. All right. In the time that you spoke to Frankie and the time you showed up there at 5 o'clock, did you see anything else come across Facebook or talk to anybody else?
No, I
Try to text Shanann?
I tried to text her.
Okay.
I called, I think I called my mom or something and let her know what was going on. I talked to a couple of our friends from back home just to kind of get more of an insight of what's going on. When was the last time somebody saw her? Excuse me, stuff like that. I got Nicole's information that day. Because I had talked to her on Facebook before, but I didn't have her number or anything. So I got that then so I could talk to her, but I didn't end up talking to her until later. Yeah.
Okay. So you tried to text Shanann.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember about when you did that? Do you still have those by chance?
I should. No, I don't know what time. It would have been between 2 and 5.
Okay.
I would have Facebooked her. I don't think I would have texted her. Because Facebook's always the fastest way to get a hold of her.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, there's been a lot of
It's okay.
contact.
I'm sure there is.
Less, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
I have no idea where it is right now. Hold on.
It's okay.
There we go. No, the last one I have is from the 12th at 2:30.
Oh, is that when she...
That was
That
when
was
she didn't
Sunday.
answer.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't even open it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So do you have anything from
Yeah.
the 13th at all?
I don't think so. I don't know how I would have. I don't think I called her. I don't know. Because like I said, I usually don't text her. I don't know. No, because my last text to her was from the 9th. Maybe I called her. I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Alright, well, if you happen to stumble across those.
Yeah, I have another cell phone at home. It's
Oh, do
my
ya?
kid's phone,
Oh,
so I don't,
okay.
I don't know why I would have used that one though, but I can still double check.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you happen to run across those, could you take screenshots
Yeah.
of any times that you tried to get in contact with her?
Yeah.
And then send me those on the email, and there's fine.
Okay.
So, yeah, that'd be great, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. So when you went to the house about 5 o'clock, what did you see there?
It was Chris and Amanda and Nick Thayer were there. I had never met them, so. I mean, he answered the door, gave me a hug. I asked the logical, like, are you okay question, and he said no. And then, I don't know, I started looking around. So like, I saw her shoes by the door, and then I saw like her suitcase, and then I saw like one of the kids' toys under one of the chairs in that living room when you first walk in. And then I looked upstairs, 'cause I just glanced upstairs, and he said something like, I had to close the doors. And I was like, what? And he was like, the doors upstairs. He was like, I had to close all the doors. He's like, because I can't handle going up there and seeing everything. And I was like, okay. And he was like, the toys and stuff. So we walk into the kitchen where the Thayers were, and I noticed that there were like toys and stuff in the living room. So my first thought was, so you can see the toys downstairs, but you can't see the toys upstairs. But, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him if he had heard anything, and I asked him if he had gone and like looked around at all. And Nick jumped in and was like, no, the police told us not to go search. And I was like, why? And he was like, that, because they said it wouldn't help. And so then I looked at Chris, and I was like, so you haven't gone and looked anywhere? And he was like, no, they told me not to. So well, that doesn't really seem logical to me, but okay. And he was wearing a tank top shirt, so I kind of naturally was trying to see if I could see anything, and I didn't. I asked him, you know, when was the last time you talked to her? Did she seem weird when you talked to her? What time did she get home? And I was like, well, I'm trying to figure out how this came up, but I was asking what the police had said. And he was talking about how they asked him who he called, or like if he tried to get a hold of anyone. He was like, I called everybody I could think of. And I was like, well, that's funny because you never called me. And he was like, well, I guess I just wasn't thinking. I was like, Chris, I live 20 minutes away. I've known her the longest. You didn't think to call me. I was like, why? I mean, you knew I was going to see her this week. Why wouldn't you just assume, you know, I would have known where she was? Because I had to find out from her brother, and that kind of irritated me. And he was like, I don't know, I called everybody I could think of. And when I did end up talking to Nicole, that wasn't true because he didn't call anybody from what she said. So that kind of irritated me a little bit because it didn't feel like he was trying of sorts. But I also had to think, okay, well, he's never been in this situation before. I can't really judge his reaction, but he wouldn't make eye contact with me when we were talking. He kind of looked at the floor the whole time. I don't know, I feel like saying he acted weird doesn't really help anything, but he just didn't, I don't know, he just didn't really seem concerned of sorts. Because I was trying to ask all these questions, because I was like, well, I'm gonna go drive around, and he was like, no, they said that wouldn't help. It's like, well, I'm going to anyway. Like, I can't not at least go try. And I don't know, we kind of stood there awkwardly in the kitchen. I played with the dog for a little bit. The dog wouldn't really go near him, which wasn't really unusual because the dog didn't really like him anyway.
Okay.
But like, he was especially just not hanging out with him. I asked him if there was anything I could do, if he needed anything. He said no. He said he was gonna try and go back to work on Tuesday, like the next day. And I was like, I don't think you should do that. And he was like, well, I can't stay here. And I was like, I understand that, but I don't think going to work is a good idea. And he's like, well, because I asked him if the police told him to stay at home or if he could, go search or whatever. And he was like, no, they said I could. They said I could go do whatever. That's what he said. He was gonna try and go to work. And I was like, don't do that. He just kept saying how he didn't want to be at the house. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go drive around, let me know if you need anything, keep in contact, let me know if you hear anything. And then he walked me to the door and hugged me and I left. So that was...
So I think you described him as just kind of being weird. Can you expand on that a little bit?
It wasn't that he was sad. I mean, because that's kind of what I was expecting. I was expecting him to be like visibly like emotional of sorts, but he seemed really just like confused almost. Like I said, he wouldn't make eye contact, so whenever he would talk, he would look kind of down at the floor. So it was almost like he was in a daze and just talking. Like he just wasn't, there was no, what I felt like there was no connection between him and what was going on. He was just kind of physically there and just talking.
Okay. Was his demeanor that day different than other days you had seen him?
I mean, he wasn't like smiling and happy or anything, but then again, there was really nobody there. It was kind of, he was just very, what's the word, like nonchalant almost.
Tell me about the shoes at the door.
They were her black flip-flops, and it was like, she kicked them off like right at the door.
Inside the front door?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And...
So it was like a pair of his work boots, and then like her shoes.
Okay. Does she always wear those shoes?
Uh-huh.
Those
Those are her, yeah, they're her favorite shoes.
Okay.
Yeah, she like orders a new pair like every year.
And that's, I've heard that she wears those constantly.
Yes.
So for them to be at the house and her not to be there,
Would you say that's unusual?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah. No, that's what, yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the suitcase.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
So when you walk in, there's a staircase, and then there's like a little space like beside the staircase, kind of, and there's a little table. So in between the table and then like where the stairs began was like her roll suitcase and then like a tote bag that were like right up against the wall over there.
Okay. Roll suitcase, like a carry-on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What color was it?
Oh God, I have no idea.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Alright. Did you see her purse anywhere?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Did you see her car in the garage?
No.
Did you go in the garage?
No. It would have, but I felt like it would have been awkward if I was like, hey, can I go look around?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So when we made that comment about closing the doors upstairs, what was your thought process when he said that to you?
At first I thought it was weird that he had mentioned it because I kind of just looked upstairs, and it's sort of a habit when I go in, because like your eye just kind of automatically wants to look around, I guess. And so from downstairs you can see like their bedroom door. You can kind of see a little bit upstairs. So I just happened to just like glance and look around, and the door was closed, and he just volunteered the information that he went up there and closed all the doors because he couldn't go up there, and he was like, I just can't see what's up there.
Did you comment about the doors being closed?
No.
Was that unusual for the doors to be closed? Was that something you'd even pick up on?
No, no. I just, like I said, I just happened to glance upstairs, and I looked, and then I guess I looked back downstairs, and he was like, oh, I closed all the doors. I was like, okay. And then he just kind of went into the explanation that he couldn't go up there and didn't want to see, like he said he couldn't handle seeing their rooms or something, and the toys and everything, and I was like, okay.
So the door that you could see that was closed, which door was that?
Their bedroom door.
So the master bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you see the girls'?
I mean, I would have if I would have looked over, because their rooms are on this side, and the girls' rooms are on this side, and their room is right there. So I would have had to like looked, because I wasn't like far enough in the house yet. But if I would have kept walking and then looked up, then I would have seen that their doors were closed.
Okay. And he mentioned something about their toys.
Yeah, he said he couldn't handle seeing their stuff, or he said going up there, and seeing all of their stuff. He's like, I can't be up there. But then I noticed, like, when we went into the kitchen, I looked into the living room, there was a bunch of toys and stuff in the living room. So my first thought was, so you can handle seeing toys and stuff downstairs, but you can't handle seeing anything upstairs, which kind of, I don't know, irritated me. Not really irritated, but it just didn't make any sense to me.
Okay. So at the time he makes that comment to you, does it strike you as unusual, or do you pay attention to it? Do you just kind of brush it off?
No, I definitely paid attention to it.
Okay.
Because up until that point, I mean, nothing was, besides them being missing, nothing was really weird about the situation. And then once I got to the house, and I saw that her shoes were there, and I saw that her luggage was still downstairs and not put away, and then he made that comment like right when I got there. It was just it just didn't feel right.
So something striking you as unusual.
Oh yeah.
About the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there normally toys scattered around downstairs?
Not if the girls aren't home. If the girls are home, then yeah, there'll be toys and stuff downstairs. But if they're not home, then Shanann cleans up everything. She's kind of OCD, neat free.
Pretty tidy about everything?
Yes.
Okay. I think you mentioned something about you were looking at Chris to see if you could find any injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little more about that.
I noticed that he didn't have sleeves on, so I just kind of, as I was talking to him, I was trying to see if I could see anything. So like I looked at his hands, and he was kind of sitting at an angle, so I could only see like one side of him. So I looked to see if like there were scratch marks or bruises or something on his arms or whatever, and I didn't see anything.
So something's triggering you to look at,
Yeah.
see this.
Yeah.
So you think he's done something.
At this point, I do find his behavior very suspicious.
Okay.
Is
there anything specifically that's triggering it, or is it a kind of a combination of everything?
It's kind of a combination. It was a feeling that I had gotten. His demeanor, his random comment about the doors being closed upstairs, him not wanting to go look for her, it just, everything kind of piled up together. I don't know, it didn't feel right.
Okay. So I've heard from other people that he's not an overly emotional person to begin with. But I think you described him on Monday as not emotional about the situation.
Right.
Could you tell a difference between the two?
I mean, I've never really seen him in an emotional situation before. So normally whenever I would see him, it was for like Super Bowl or a holiday or a dinner party or something like that. So I've never had to see him having to use any emotions besides being happy. And like I said, I can't really judge a person's reaction to a situation that they've never been in before, but when your wife and your kids are missing, you just kind of expect someone to be at least sad or anxious or, just some kind of something. And there was just nothing. There was just nothing there.
So if I were to describe it as basically flat,
Yes.
would that be fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me throw something else. So from your experience, would it be normal for somebody, if their kids and wife are missing, would they be flat like that, or would they be hysterical?
I mean, I feel like there should be a medium in between the two.
Okay.
Because I think it was late enough to where he wouldn't have been hysterical anymore, but it was still too early for him to have completely shut off his emotions.
Okay.
So I feel like while I was asking him questions or talking about them, like I feel like he should have expressed some kind of something, and I wasn't getting anything from him. He just, I don't know, it's like almost robotic, I guess.
Okay. Did it appear that he'd been crying?
No.
Did he expand any more on why he wasn't going to go look for them, other than the police told him not to?
That's all he said. Well, that's what Nick said. Because I asked Chris, and Nick answered for him. And I was kind of like, okay, well, I was talking to Chris. So they wouldn't let me, I don't want to say let me, but I wasn't able to talk to him by myself. So
Who else was there with him?
it was Nick and Amanda there.
So they stayed with him
Yeah.
the entire time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
cause I tried to talk to him in that living room area before we got to the kitchen. And then, Amanda came in and like introduced herself. So I never really got, I don't wanna say alone time, but like, I couldn't talk to him one-on-one. It was the three of them. And I didn't know them, so it was kind of awkward. But he answered the question for Chris about why they weren't going to search. And then when he mentioned wanting to go to work the next day, I was like, so you want to go to work, but you're not going to go look for them. And that was when Nick was like, well, the police told us not to. I was like, I know you said that, but that doesn't mean, like, you don't have, like, that doesn't mean you have to. Like, you should at least want to go look. And Chris was like, well, I don't see the point. And then he was like, I can't stay here. So it was really like, it was kind of conflicting because he wanted to leave and go to work because he didn't want to be at home, but he didn't want to leave to go look for them because the police said that it wasn't going to do any good. So.
Chris ever say anything about the girls' medication still being there, anything like that? Talk about the medication for the girls or for Shanann? Were you aware that they were on medication? And that was for?
Well, Cece had her medicine for her allergies, so there was always like the EpiPens. I don't know what all Shanann was on, but I know like with her Thrive routine, she has like her shake every morning and stuff like that. So all of that was there apparently. And she never and there was no dishes in the sink, so she didn't like have her shake that morning. She didn't give the girls breakfast. So that was kind of unusual.
Do you know if she takes any other prescription medications?
Not that I know of. I'm not really sure.
She ever talked about having migraines?
Yeah, she hadn't had them in a while. I think, I know when she got pregnant that she was having migraines more frequently, but that happened with her last 2 pregnancies also.
Okay. And my understanding is she recently had some neck surgery. That was last summer, is that right? What was that about?
I don't even know what it's called. My mom had the same surgery. I don't know. I know that they went in through the front and they did something with her spine, and then she was in a neck brace for a few weeks. She seemed to recover pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any major complications with that you're aware of? Okay.
No, she just hated wearing the neck brace.
No, I'm sure it doesn't seem like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, she said it didn't go with any of her clothes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So, anyone else at the house when you were there?
Just the Thayers, Chris, and the dog.
Okay. When do you leave the house?
I was there for maybe 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes. My kids were in the driveway in the car on their tablets, so I didn't want to leave them for too long, but I didn't want to bring them in either, so I couldn't stay for too long. But I mean, I guess at that point there was really nothing I could do.
Yeah. What do you do when you leave?
I go get gas at the gas station down the street.
Okay.
I kind of took the long way of sorts, so I kind of drove through the neighborhood a little bit.
Because?
To see if I could find anything. I drove to where I could see like the back of their house, because I couldn't remember if there were houses and stuff back there yet. Because when they first moved out there, it was nothing but a field. They were starting to develop, so I wanted to see kind of what was going on back there. Just to look around to see if I could see anything, just because I wanted to find them. So I drove around the neighborhood, went and got gas, and came back to my house. I thought about going to talk to the people at Starbucks to see if maybe they had seen something. Then I was like, well, they would have had a shift change, so it wouldn't have been important. Or
Is she a regular at the Starbucks?
No, she didn't even drink coffee.
Oh, okay.
But you never know. I don't know, there's so many like fields and stuff out there. I was like, there's no way I could go and search all this by myself. So I was trying to think of like who I could call to like come back out there and maybe look in the area, because there's a lot of land out there.
Right, that's right. So you went and got gas, and drove around in the neighborhood there. What do you do after that?
I went back to Aurora.
Okay.
I called her brother and told him that I had just left the house. I talked to him for a little while. I asked if they needed anything. I think I probably got back on Facebook to see if anybody had said anything.
See anything else on Facebook that anybody had of interest?
No, it's more the reposting of his like my sister is missing type thing. It spread pretty quickly. I don't know, I called my fiance and was like, excuse me, I was like, Shanann's missing, I just left the house. And then he was mad because I went out there by myself. And I was like, well, it's Chris, like he's not gonna do anything to me. And then, I don't know, I went home and I think I called another one of our friends from back home to see if she had heard from it, like heard anything. And then I kind of just stayed on my phone and.
Do you have any contact with anybody else involved with this? Did you talk to Chris at all?
I didn't talk to Chris after that day.
Okay.
I talked to Nicole the next day.
That was the 14th?
Yes.
Okay. What'd you and Nicole talk about?
I asked her how Shanann was when she dropped her off. I asked her, was she sure that she made it inside? And she said yes. She said she watched her walk in and close the door. I asked her if like her and Chris had been fighting that she knew of. I mean, kind of all the like standard questions. Like, have you heard from her? When was the last time you talked to her? And then she did the same to me. When was the last time you talked to her? Did she say anything to you? And then we kind of both started to like worry more after talking to each other, because she usually talks to one of the two of us at least every day. And so now that it had been pretty much 24 hours since we knew that she had at least gotten home and nobody had heard from her, we automatically knew something was wrong. Because even if, hypothetically, she had decided to run away and take the kids, she would have at least contacted her family to say, hey, I'm okay, I just had to get away. She's not that kind of person, but she would have contacted somebody. And so that's when we knew that something it just wasn't right.
Let me back up to
Yeah.
Monday. when you go to the house, so we talked quite a bit about Chris and the toys in the house and the suitcase. Anything else at the house unusual that you notice? Anything strike you as unusual?
No,
Out of place?
It was really quiet. No, it wasn't. No.
Okay. Alright. So on Tuesday, you and Nicole talk, and are you convinced at this point that something has happened?
Yes.
Okay. What about Nicole? Is she in the same boat? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. What do you do at this point?
We were trying to coordinate getting a search party together. We didn't know really where to start because there wasn't really, we don't have a whole lot to go on, so I didn't know where to start. And we were waiting to see what happened because we knew the dogs were coming out to the house. We saw that Chris was doing an interview. I talked to her mom a few times to see if maybe she could tell me where to go look. It was just kind of like wanting to do something but not really knowing where to start kind of situation.
Right. Okay. Do you guys actually get a search party organized at all?
No,
Okay.
we never got that far.
Okay. Are you still trying to contact Shanann?
No, I'm not at this point.
Okay.
I knew the police had her phone, so there was really no point in trying to contact her when she doesn't have her phone.
Right. Okay.
And I knew that on Monday.
You knew the police had her phone on Monday?
Uh-huh.
Okay. How did you know that?
I don't know. I think either her mom told me or her brother, because I'm assuming they had talked to Chris or they talked to Nicole because Nicole was there when the police got there. So I'm pretty sure it was her mom that told me that they had her phone.
Okay.
So once I found that out, there wasn't even a point in trying. Yeah.
Does Shanann wear a smartwatch?
Yes.
Did she have that on her all the time?
Yes.
Did you ever go back to the house?
No.
Anything else about Tuesday that you remember doing specifically to try to find Shanann and the girls?
No, I started getting all of the phone calls and stuff from reporters on Tuesday.
How did they put you together with her?
I had made a post on Facebook. If you see anything, if you know anything, blah blah blah. I don't know. I don't even know how they got my phone number. To
They're
be
good
honest.
at it.
Yeah, so it's their job.
Yeah.
So a lot of Tuesday and Wednesday was not talking to reporters. So it was a lot of like random texts and phone calls and being driven crazy by all of them.
Sure.
So, watching the news a lot, seeing if we could find out anything. Yeah.
Okay. Are you talking to any of her friends?
I kept in contact with Nicole. I talked to her friend Christina that lives in Hawaii, because she talked to her all the time. So I was, we were communicating back and forth because she was like, let me know if you hear anything. I'll let you know if I hear anything. checking on her parents, making sure they're okay. Her best friend in North Carolina, I talked to her a lot. It was a lot of phone calls and texts and I don't know anything.
Okay.
Those were frustrating days.
I'm sure, I can understand that. Okay, so anything else about Tuesday that kind of stands out for you?
No, no. I think we saw the interview Tuesday night.
What was your impression of the interview?
Uh, it was disheartening, I think, because he was still kind of emotionless, but the emotion that he did have was not the right emotion. I feel like he was almost like cocky in the interview, and that was kind of alarming to me. I don't think that was, like I said, there's no like correct behavior for this situation, but that was a wrong one. And a lot of like some of the things he was saying didn't make sense.
Was there something specific that
I
was
mean,
making sense for you?
no, it was little things like he called everybody he knew, which isn't true. You know, he rushed home as soon as he found out, which isn't true. Just the way he said some things, or the things that he wasn't saying, it was just all very, it's like he had tried to like rehearse it, but he didn't do it right. So it came out odd. It's like he was trying to convince everyone that, like, it definitely had nothing to do with it, but he was conveying it in like a happy way. I don't know, it was weird.
Okay. Anything else about the interview?
No. I don't think he should have done an interview, but, you know, it's not my call.
Yeah. Okay. So what are you thinking about the entire situation at this point?
Like at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't.
No, it's okay. At that point, I had a very strong feeling that he had done something. But yet, it's still kind of hard to believe because he just isn't that person. So, but the person that I knew and the person that was kind of on TV are two completely different people. Like his behavior and his mannerisms and everything were just really different from the person that I had known. So I was trying to figure out, like, does he just know something or did he actually do something? And that's what, you know, we were kind of trying to work through Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
Because it's still one of those, you don't want to believe that he actually had anything to do with it, so we didn't know anything. But from what we did know, everything kind of points to, it seems like he had something to do with it.
Are you talking to your fiance about this?
Yeah.
What's he saying?
He was pretty surprised at the whole situation. He had met Chris a few times and they got along really well. Because I think the three of them were like the only Steelers fans in Colorado, so they got along really he kept asking me, he's like, do you think he did it? Do you think something happened? What do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing there's no evidence saying yes, but my gut feeling is different.
Okay. So let's go to Wednesday. What do you do Wednesday? Anything that you can think of that's related to this? Or you talk to the friends more?
Yeah, it's mainly deflecting reporters and talking to friends, kind of. It's been a couple days now. Like, what do we do next? How long is this gonna last? It was either Tuesday night or Wednesday. I set up a fundraiser to, help, because I know her parents wanted to come out here, because I would want to be out there. So I was trying to help raise money to get them out here so they could help with the search or, anything like that. So I was getting the fundraiser stuff set up, trying to talk her mom through bank accounts and stuff like that.
That's the GoFundMe.
It was the Facebook fundraiser.
Oh, Facebook fundraiser.
Yeah.
So let me back up just a smidge. So prior to Wednesday, what do you hear as far as progress of the investigation? Anybody telling you anything? You hear anything from the police?
Yes and no. I talked to Amanda Thayer. I don't remember when the dogs came out. That had to have been Tuesday. I was on the phone with her because she was still with Chris at the house. And she said that the dogs had just left. And I was like, well, what happened? And she said they didn't find anything. And I said, well, how do you know? And she was like, because they didn't say anything. And I was like, well, they're not going to tell you if they found something. And she was like, well, Chris isn't a suspect, so they would tell him. I was like, okay, clearly you don't know how these things work, but okay. I was like, so you're sure they didn't find anything? And she was like, no, they didn't find anything. And I was like, okay, so what else? She was like, they searched the house, they did a thorough search of everything, and she was like, they didn't find anything, so we're gonna take Chris to our house. I was like, okay. And that I kind of, knowing the little things that I know about law enforcement and stuff, I feel like when they don't tell you anything, then that's when there is evidence. So in my mind, them saying nothing to him said more. So I kind of started to internally freak out because I feel like there was more going on than what they were letting out. I know there was something about the bed sheets not being on the bed. And that was a huge red flag to me.
Who told you about the bed sheets?
Nicole.
Did she tell you how she knew that?
She was inside the house.
Okay. Did she comment about that being unusual?
Only after I said something.
What did you say to her?
I said, that's not right. And she was like, I know. Just because of how Shanann is, she wouldn't, her bed is never, stripped of sorts. So, if she's remaking her bed to wash her sheets, she makes her bed again. She wouldn't have just left it all unmade like that.
So her bed's always made.
Yes,
What about the kids?
always made. Sometimes like it's either right after they get up or as soon as she gets home from taking them to school. But I mean, she does all of her cleaning and stuff in the morning, so her house is always really clean. I don't know how she does it.
Okay. All right, so Wednesday, more of the same, dodging reporters, talking to friends.
Yeah, I had the Facebook page set up. Excuse me. So I had like the fundraiser, the Facebook page. I don't know. Wednesday's kind of a blur. It was just, my phone was just going off like crazy. Just constant people and questions and yeah.
That's kind of why I wanted you to come down here in person to see
Yeah.
that we weren't trying to jack with you.
Yeah, no, I understand. I have to be careful who I talk to.
I understand that. So, let's see. Anything else about Wednesday that stands out in your mind? Okay. So I assume at some point on Wednesday you hear about Chris being arrested.
Yes, her mom called me.
Her mom called you.
Mhm.
Okay. And what's your initial reaction to that?
I think I had a panic attack.
Did so?
Not like a severe
full-on
one,
breakdown.
but yeah, because up at that point I'd been like, you don't know what's going on. Like they're just missing at this point. But then once he gets arrested, you know, kind of makes everything a little bit more real to the worst case scenario. So I talked to her mom, and then maybe 10 minutes later, it was like all over the news that he was arrested and had confessed. And then
What does her mom say to you?
she tells me that they had taken Chris into custody, and I said, for what? And she said on suspicion of, I think she said on suspicion of murder. She said, he just said that he knew where they were. She said, but the news is gonna report something different. So I knew what I was gonna see before I saw it. Because the news and everybody was saying that he had confessed to murdering all three of them. My understanding was he had only confessed to knowing where they were. So they were still not alive, but he wasn't saying, yes, I did it. So even then, you know, it still could have been like anything at that point. I don't know, it was pretty shocking. Even though like I think I had known and I had tried to prepare myself for him to be arrested in connection with all of this, it was just still kind of like, it's Chris. It just didn't really make any sense. It still doesn't really make any sense, but you know.
Sure. And I assume you've seen all the subsequent stories that have
Yes.
come out, and
Mm-hmm.
some true, some not so truthful. So I assume you saw one specifically related to him dating somebody at work.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Did
Did you have any knowledge of that? Did Shanann ever?
she
Suspect
she
that?
had made jokes kind of about just like if he didn't answer a text or something, she's like, oh, he's probably with his work girlfriend. But I never really like probed her about it. In those 6 months where his behavior had kind of start to get a little bit distant, I thought about that, and then I thought about, well, maybe he was having an affair. But even then, it still just, it seemed weird, because he didn't really seem like the affair type of person. I mean, 6 months ago, if he would have asked me, was Chris having an affair, I'd be like, absolutely not. But since seeing his behavior change, and I could see it. It just, I don't know, still doesn't really make sense. I don't.
So, knowing what you know now, looking back at what he was as his behavior,
Yes.
does that
It does.
equate?
Yes.
Is there something specific that sticks out in your mind, or just a generality?
No, I think it's just the general, like, distancing. It's typical behavior, I think, like, not as much affection, and, the distancing and the short conversations, and, most guys pretty much act the same, so.
Okay. Alright, so other than the joking, did Shanann ever talk to you about that, confide in you that she thought he was having an affair, or anything like that?
No.
Anything we haven't talked about that you think we should? Is there something we need to cover?
I don't think so.
Okay, even if you think it's outlandish, anything like that?
Not that I can think of. No. It's still kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around kind of situation. I don't know. It's just, I feel like it was extremely out of character for him, so it's just hard to think, like, I don't know. It's like I think about the last 6 months, and I'm like, well, maybe we could have seen something coming, but he wasn't abusive. There was no, and I saw her enough to know, if something was happening, and it just wasn't, I don't know. I think it would have been different if maybe they would have had kind of a volatile marriage, or there would have been constant fights or something, but that's just not how it was.
So, I know that she put a lot of her life on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Was what she portrayed on Facebook pretty consistent with what reality was?
Yeah. And I think outside looking in, it's really hard to assume that, because people that don't know her, would say that maybe it is a front, that she's trying to portray her perfect marriage, but that's, that is how it was. He was very interactive with the kids and with her. He was very attentive. He was one of those, like, worship the ground that all three of them walked on kind of husbands. So that's why when they initially went missing, there's no way in hell Chris could have had anything to do with it, because that's just not the, like, family person that he was. But then, going to see him and going to talk to him, and then as things started to unfold, it's like they were just two completely different people. I don't
So
know.
obviously your impression changed fairly quickly.
Yeah, and I didn't want it to change because, you know, I've known him for almost 5 years now, so I don't know, it just doesn't add up. So I don't know.
Okay, yeah, if you can't think of anything else, I think we'll call that good for now.
Okay.
If you think of something, would you either give me a call or send me an email?
Yeah, and I'll try and find that
Yeah, if you have
from the 13th.
yeah, if you would, I would appreciate that
Yeah.
too. So let me put my cell number on the back of the
Okay.
card there for you. All right, well, thanks for coming down, I appreciate it.
No problem.